Breaking news tonight on Democratic security concerns. New information tonight about one of the reasons why Democratic lawmakers have been talking to Capitol Police and the FBI and why they met today to talk about their safety since voting to pass health care reform. Now, we want to be very careful reporting all of this tonight, making sure not to raise the temperature because, frankly, it's simply too hot as it is. In just the last few days, we've seen racist and bigoted slurs hurled over the issue. We've seen lawmakers spat on, windows broken, death threats made. Dana Bash has the breaking news tonight about what Democrats have been discussing behind closed doors. Dana?
Well, Anderson, I'm told that in a Democratic meeting today about those safety concerns, a House member specifically talked about this map. Check it out. It's on Sarah Palin's Facebook page. It has the top House Democratic political targets, but they're illustrated with rifle crosshairs. And when a member raised it in that meeting, there was an audible groan, I'm told. And it's just one example of how Democrats argue political rhetoric and imagery over health care has crossed the line, and they have now become real targets from citizens who are opposing them.
This motion
It was anti-abortion Democrat Bart Stupak's 11th hour deal that gave House Democrats the votes to pass health care. Listen to some messages on his office voicemail.
Stupak, you're a low-life, baby-murdering, scumbag pile of steaming crap. You're a cowardly punk, Stupak.
Think about this. There are millions of people across the country who wish you ill. And all of those thoughts projected on you will materialize into something that's not very good for you.
And he's gotten faxes like these, images of a noose and a Nazi SS insignia. Stupak is hardly the only Democrat being threatened. Vandalism at the Arizona office of Gabby Giffords and the New York office of House Rules Chairwoman Louise Slaughter.
Someone hurled a brick through the window of my district office in the dark of night.
Whomever threw that brick is a mystery, but one person encouraging such behavior is known. Mark Vanderboegh is a popular right-wing extremist. He wrote on his blog last week, so if you wish to send a message that Pelosi and her party cannot fail to hear, break their windows, break them now, break them and run to break again. During a radio interview yesterday, Mr. Vanderboegh urged further action.
I'm advocating broken windows. I'm advocating, I suppose, vandalism.
House Democrats are now so concerned about security, leaders called an emergency closed-door meeting with the FBI, Capitol Police, and Sergeant-at-Arms.
Do you feel that your members are really at risk in terms of their security?
Yes. I think we've had very serious incidences that have occurred over the last 48, 72 hours.
So how are you dealing with that? What actions are you taking?
Well, we have the Capitol Police just briefed members. If they are in any way suspicious or fearful or see actions occurring, to report those immediately. And the Capitol Police will respond and try to determine whether crimes have been committed.
My wife and kids are at home. They're organizing protests in front of my house. We're getting death threats on the telephone.
Freshman Democrat Steve Driehaus also voted yes on health care. Before he did, the House Minority Leader John Boehner warned he may be a dead man. Driehaus blames the GOP leader for stirring up some of the threats against him.
They're engaged in rhetoric that goes way beyond the pale of what's responsible. They're inciting behavior, and I think they should be held responsible for that.
Boehner declined our interview request to directly respond and instead issued a statement. I know many Americans are angry over this health care bill and that Washington Democrats just aren't listening. But as I've said, violence and threats are unacceptable. He went on to say, go volunteer at a political campaign, make your voice heard, but let's do it the right way. Still, Democrats are blaming Republican lawmakers for egging protesters on, maybe over the line, like this over the weekend, when Republican Steve King held up a poster of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, gave her a thumbs down, and made a slapping motion across her face. We asked King about that.
There was a moment that we have seen. You were up there, right on that balcony up there, with a picture of the House Speaker slapping it.
Now, that would be an exaggeration, but this is a melodrama. Keep in mind, this is a melodrama.
Tell me what your goal was with what you did.
My goal is to inspire people to stand up for the Constitution, stand up for fiscal responsibility, and stand up for the rule of law.
King walked away before we could get him to fully explain what he meant to do, but he did say he condemns any threats of violence.
Well, Dana joins us now along with John Avlon, senior political writer with thedailybeast.com and author of Wingnuts, How the Lunatic Fringe is Hijacking America. Dana, it's interesting you talking to Steve King. I mean, he clearly was slapping, right or wrong, or whether it's justified or not, he was clearly slapping the picture of Nancy Pelosi, and for him to say that that's an exaggeration is just simply factually incorrect.
As you could probably tell, I was a little bit stunned, and then he said, well, I haven't seen the videotape, and I started to say, well, you were there, and I sort of didn't get a chance to finish that. Look, what he said, the point he was trying to make, big picture, is that he believes that there were thousands of peaceful protesters and the media are ignoring them. But what I was trying to ask him about was the fact that he is one of the Republicans that Democrats say, wait a minute, if our leaders are going to do things like that, what do you expect from people out there? I just want to make one other point, Anderson. We said Mark Vanderboegh is the name of the blogger in the piece. His name is Mike. Mike.
John, it's interesting. I mean, people point, apparently on Capitol Hill, Democrats were talking behind closed doors about Sarah Palin's Facebook page, show up that map with the crosshairs on it. She also tweeted something, I guess, in which she said that, she said it takes common sense conservatives and lovers of America don't retreat, instead reload. Please see my Facebook page. Clearly, she was speaking metaphorically. Yeah. And Republicans who see this and supporters of Sarah Palin who see this will say, well, look, this is Democrats overreacting. These are just, crosshairs that's symbolic on districts.
Yeah, and that may have been a credible explanation or an excuse before today when we've seen 10 Democrats say they've received death threats in the last day alone. At this point, having crosshairs on a political map seems to me not only an act of poor judgment, but I think she should be called on to take those crosshairs off. If she does not, it's a sign of seriously insufficient judgment. This is the politics of incitement are what we are dealing with, and this is an evidence of that at this moment. And
it's interesting now, Dan, you have some Republicans saying that Democrats are actually, kind of fanning the flames of this. Where are they pointing to for that?
Well, look, Democrats were so blunt today that they believe that Republicans simply are not doing enough, especially the leadership, to try to tamp down on some of this stuff. And the House Majority Whip, Jim Clyburn, he actually said on another network that he believes that if people aren't condemning these actions, then you're aiding and abetting this kind of terrorism. Well, Republicans said, wait a minute, if you're going to yell at us for using a rhetoric that's too hot, well, why are you calling us terrorists? And I talked to an aide to Clyburn who said, look, that he called the protests over the weekend akin to terrorism, and that speaks for itself. But it just goes to show you that things are being ratcheted up. I can tell you that there were actually closed-door conversations, Anderson, between Democratic leaders and Republican leaders in the hopes of maybe putting out a joint statement. That didn't happen today.
We're going to have more from Dana and from John Avlon in just a moment. We're going to continue the conversation after the break. Also, what's